Hello, and welcome to the Inventive Marketing Club number 5. Today we're going to talk about how to get 5-star reviews and why I think they're good for SEO. Before we begin, can I have a sound check? We've got someone in already. Can I just let me know in the chat if you can hear me while I run through how Inventive Marketing Club works? So the Inventive Marketing Club is a collection of my friends, customers, and people interested in marketing and anything to do with that. And basically each month we talk about a particular topic. This month we're talking about reviews. We've talked about video in the past, LinkedIn, marketing plan, email, and we've got lots of other topics lined up for the rest of the year. But yes, this month we are looking at reviews. I don't see anyone putting anything in the chat, but that's fine. I assume you can all hear me. We don't have any guests for this particular one. It's just me. So I'm going to plow on ahead. Oh, first, I wanted to just let everyone know that we've updated ticked off. I don't know how many of you have been using that recently, but last week or so, we revamped the design completely and put a load more content in it, including a lot of our interviews where relevant to some of the tasks. So I think there's been significant change. So if you've not looked at it in a little while, do go and have a look. If it's something that you don't know about, then I would give it a look. Basically, ticked off is a way of helping you with your marketing, helps you promote your business step by step, really taking you through and giving you work to do, tasks to do that will help improve it from come out with a 20-word objective for your company to listening to listening to Gina Gagan about how she started a drinks business. Lots of good stuff there. So if you're trying it, haven't tried it for a long time, or you want to try it from new, head over to ticked-off.com. Okay. So as always, I'll just start with a few questions. I'm interested if people do collect reviews or testimonials. I'm actually more interested in whether people review other companies and why they do it, because I have certain feelings on when to review companies and why I would do it, but I'm interested in to know what gates people have to leap over, what pushes people or motivates people to leave a review. Usually, it's got to be where the service is one way or the other. Maybe it's exceptionally good or very bad. And how do you use the feedback you get? What systems do you have in place? Do you use it, or do you just look at it and smile? I'm interested in all of those questions. So before we get started, I just want to set the scene, as I always do, and I want to go through different ways we can get reviews and just make sure we all know what I mean by reviews and make sure we're on the same page. So the first example here I've got is on LinkedIn. Now these are reviews, but they call them recommendations, and it's where you are able to find a person's profile on LinkedIn, and if you've worked with them in some capacity, either as a contractor working for them or they've been a client of yours, putting a testimonial down on how they are to work with. And I actually think it works well both ways. I think it's really good if you get a customer testimonial from someone who's paid you to do some work for them, or the other way around. If you've worked for another company, I think it's nice as a contractor or employee that you can give a testimonial to them. I think they work both ways and benefit each other. So in this particular example, we've got recommendations. Unfortunately, and I think this is a shame, they're pushed down the bottom of LinkedIn. So they're on people's profiles and they're down the bottom. They're not as highlighted as I think they should be. LinkedIn does have something called endorsements, where you can say Ben is good at marketing, for example, which is slightly higher up. I think we can just see a little bit poking into the frame here. But I think recommendations are more important because they're more difficult to get and they're from people. They're really giving you some direction on what that company would be like to work with. Now, the way to get recommendations in LinkedIn is to, you can do them two ways. You can either just give them or you can ask for them. So if you are a contractor, if you have a customer who you've worked for, you can send them a LinkedIn recommendation request. Maybe putting some information that you'd like them to touch on, and then they'll get that request, and then they can fill out their feedback and send it back to you. But another good way is to give people a recommendation first. Now, I've often found that you will not get as many recommendations back as you give, but it's often a good way to start because you're starting by giving, which is always a good way to start a relationship or maintain one. So that's LinkedIn and their recommendations. So moving on, we've got Google Ad or reviews in Google Ads. Now these are automatic. I don't really do, I'm not going to talk about them much really. We don't do a lot to do with these, but if you have a Google ad and you have seller ratings via your merchant account, then if you have over 150 reviews and an average or more than an average of 3.5, then they will show on your ad. The nice thing about this, and I think that the positive element about reviews on any platform, is that usually they highlight you in some way, either by the number or the rating of the review. In this case, you get orange stars, and that makes you stand out for the particular listing. Next, we've got local search. Now, I think this can be important to a lot of people where they find maybe they're trying to optimize for search engine optimization, but finding it tough. Actually, you can get found in local search if you play your cards right. And this is using Google My Business. And if anyone doesn't have a Google My Business account, they should get one set up because it's free and it's a really good way to put your business on the map. Literally, quite literally. No, every pun intended there. Generally speaking, with Google My Business, where Google is looking at the distance you are from the center of that location. So I'm just looking in Cirencester here, so we can see loosely it's in the center of the A429 there. That's where we consider Cirencester. That's where we got a cluster of accountants. And it's going to list the top ones who are closest to that area. And then as you move down the list, they're going to be moving further away from that. You can counter that a little bit by reviews. So getting more 5-star or highly positive reviews is going to enable you to just trump that list and jump up a little bit further. Again, like with search optimization, there's a lot of unknowns here, but it does seem to be that you should make sure your profile is correctly listed, and if possible, put a keyword in that relates to what you do. So in this case, accountants or chartered accountants. Make sure you get your locality right, make sure you get your categories right, and then try and get reviews on it. I won't go into too much depth, but it might be a good topic to look at Google My Business as another subject for an IMC at some point. So you can also collect reviews. So we've done a workshop this morning, actually, and I have a review sheet like this, and it's possible that people can write feedback on here. Well, I might want to put that feedback onto our website. In the case of this is the Graze website. I don't know if any of you have tried Graze, but they're lovely little nibble boxes that you can get through the post. Ideal gifts for people, really, because they're relatively cheap at under £4 and nice and fun. I know a lot of our clients like that sort of fun gift. But in this case, so Graze have used a system called Trustpilot, and they've got Trustpilot to collect the reviews for them after each sale, and then they've added them manually onto their website. Here's another way of doing it, which we have done for a group here called the Worcestershire Education Network. And on here, we can see 3 reviews, and these are actually just pulled directly from the Say Hello website. So the reviews actually go onto the Say Hello website, like Trustpilot, but then there is a little embedded piece of code here, which brings that information through from Say Hello. It's a bit like embedding a YouTube video on your web page, except in this case, you're embedding testimonials. So that's another way of getting them on here. The benefit with this is they're going to be updated. So as you get more reviews on Say Hello, it's going to be updated on this website. Here's another one in Facebook. Now, what I like about these is they show up front before any updates. So for example, I go to kickboxing locally in Cirencester, and if I were to scroll down and try and keep up to date on their feed, then I'm going to generally be scrolling past this information, so photos and recommendations and reviews. So it's a really good way for people to see your rating up front before they see any other content. And actually, that was a good reminder to me when I was going through. I thought, oh, they haven't had any reviews in the last 2 years for this kickboxing group. I'll give them a review. So it's a really good way to make sure your reviews get seen, and also to make sure that people are encouraged to leave a review. One thing I also noticed with Facebook is they moved to a thumbs up, thumbs down rating. They used to have a 5-star rating, but they've actually moved to a thumbs up, thumbs down rating. I think it was last year, but I don't remember now. I'm not so much into this side of social media, so I don't know the detail. But in my opinion, and I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on this, but my opinion, I actually prefer a simplistic rating. So anything which is like, yes, they are good, or no, I wouldn't really rate them, or a smiley face, neutral face, and a sad face. I think they're my preferred ways of ranking or rating a particular company. Although a lot of people I know like to use a full 5-star rating. Although the problem with that is I think, well, okay, I'm not sure if they're a 4 or 5 star. And I start thinking about it. It causes me to spend time on this, on the objective of leaving a review. And I don't want to spend time doing that. I want it to be nice and simple. So really speaking, I'm going to be going, yeah, they're great, or they're okay, or they were truly bad. I think for me to go in between, it doesn't work well. Although I know there are some people who make you work hard for that 5-star. But don't get me started on 10-point ways of reviewing a company. I find it difficult. But do leave me a comment if you think that's your preferred method. I'd be interested to find out how people prefer to review things. So that's Facebook. You can also get recommendations on Twitter. So, excuse me. So here's a lovely one from Heidi. Heidi, I don't know if you're in the audience, but you may well wave if you like to. So this was great. I can't remember exactly the situation here. I think we may have been on the phone, or I may have just dropped in to see Heidi on the way back from Herefordshire. And we just had a chat about a few things that needed doing. And Heidi is very nice in terms of letting other people know, if she likes working with people. So this was a really nice recommendation. It's not strictly a review or feedback, but it's really nice. And the nice thing about it from my perspective is, yeah, I get to see this and smile, but so does everyone else. So I can retweet this as well as everyone in Heidi's network getting to see this. So this is great. I did ask Heidi where she got the what I call the jolly green giant image of me from. I'm not sure about that. She said she got it from my website, but that's a really, really old picture of me on our website. I've got, I haven't got any beard, and our logo has changed since then. But it's nice. It's nice to go back in time by about 10 years. And this is particularly good for us, but I know if you run a podcast or perhaps on YouTube, actually being able to leave the ratings directly on that service is a really good way of upvoting or increasing the rank maybe and position of that particular podcast. So I've got a couple of example reviews here, but it's really nice to see when to get that feedback that you're doing good work, but also it affects the algorithms in this system. So I think certainly with iTunes that it's the frequency that matters. So if you can get a good momentum of feedback being piled onto, then that's going to make you get shown up in the listings. So you're more likely to get seen by people casually browsing, and you're more likely to come to the top of any particular search engine in there. It's very similar for YouTube as well. Heidi, no worries for being late, not at all. I was just, in fact, showing people your lovely Twitter recommendation that you gave me back last year, in fact. So thank you very much for that. So there are lots of different ways. No worries. There are lots of different ways of getting reviews, and it could be recommendations, feedback, reviews. I like to sometimes ask for not a feedback or review, but can you tell me how to improve what we're doing? Certainly in the workshop we had this morning, that was the key thing that we were asking. I was just saying, just ask one thing that we could do to make the workshop even better. Because often what I find is that some people will, they might say, yeah, I would have preferred nicer coffee. Although there is always nice coffee, or more interactional, or whatever it might be. But they'll usually say something nice as well. And so it's a good way of actually getting some positive feedback that you can do something with, some constructive criticism, and then maybe some positive feedback as well. So there's lots of different ways of getting reviews. But why are they useful? It doesn't just make us feel better. although that is in itself quite useful. But there are lots of useful ways of doing it. So let's have a look. I think one of the key ways is that they can support your SEO efforts in a multitude of different ways. So number one, if you've got Google My Business, it can help you get further up that Google map pack. So in the list of 3 that appears at the top of Google, when someone's searching for, say, Cirencester accountants, then the accountants will be listed, and it's going to show you the ones who are nearest the center at the top. But if you've got your reviews, it may well bubble you to the top, depending on how many reviews and how positive they are. I think people are more likely to click on your entry. That if you have an entry that has these stars, whether they be gold or orange, you stand out more. You are going to be more visible. You look more engaging to click on. And also you've got social proof. You've got the fact that other people have trusted you and used you. Certainly if you've got a significant number of reviews, that can make a huge difference. I haven't got a slide to show here, but one of our Something Inventive podcast interviews was with a guy called, I'm going to say Greg for the moment while I try and find it in the background, but he ran an SEO affiliate company where he shows people how to make money through SEO affiliate links. And one of the things he did, which was quite unique in terms of trying to get feedback from people, is he would offer you the opportunity to get back the investment you put into his workshop by giving him a testimonial. One, I asked him about this. He knows that not everyone's going to take it up, otherwise he'd be out of pocket. But also he knows that it's certainly in the early stages, that's the thing that really mattered. If he wanted to leap over everyone else, he needed really good reviews, and he needed to be mentioned a lot. So whether that review was put onto his site directly or someone put it somewhere else, then that could help with search optimization that way. So that was quite interesting. I can't actually remember the link now, but it'll come to me. But basically, he's called SEO Affiliate Domination. And when I find the link, I will try and put it into the notes here so you can have a look. But that's on our podcast, so definitely go and listen to that. I think, yeah, people are more likely to click on your entry, and we've talked about improve organic rankings. I think there is an ability to use schema. Actually, I think we touched on in this presentation to use schema or structured data as part of your website, and you can reference the reviews you get from Google My Business, or in fact any other review source, and that may give you an uplift in your search rankings. It's certainly been recommended by our SEO partner that we work with. Heidi's come up with a few comments here. She said reviews are great, third-party endorsement without saying we're great all the time. Absolutely, Heidi. I mean, that I didn't mention that, but that is one of the great things about reviews, is that you don't have to say how great you are yourself. Some people find it really difficult to say how great they are. I don't mind so much. I just often find that I'm not sure how to articulate it, and it's not so genuine if it comes from me. If it comes from someone else who's worked with you, who's found you friendly, useful, or you know, whatever metric is that determines your usefulness as a supplier contractor, it's really nice to hear from other people, and it cheers people up. So Heidi, you've got a comment here. Remind us about your review software development, please. Yes, I will. Thank you for asking that. I will come to that at the end, because that's so Heidi's asking, I think, about Sayhola. So I'm going to come to that at the end and also give you some examples about how we might ask for reviews. So basically, yes, I think getting reviews can support SEO. Certainly will help you in that local Google map pack when someone's searching for you locally. Helps people click on your entry because you're a bit more visible. It's got a bit of social proof in there. And also it may help you in organic rankings if you combine it with structured data. Now, this actually came up in a talk this morning when we were talking about SEO in the workshop, and we touched on reviews. And one of the great things it gives you is the language that your customers use to describe you. Because I might say about how we work lots of different things. You know, I might help people with search optimization. We might help people get more leads to help their business. You know, we we get people up to number one in Google or whatever it might be. That's difficult, by the way, so I'm never going to promise that. But there's lots of different things we could say, or I could say about the way we work. But actually, when I listen to customers and see what they say, it's so much easier and nicer. And you can use that text in your language back. So you can reflect all of that language back onto your website, back into your website copy, your blog articles, your tweets, your conversations with clients. If you get down to a sales meeting, you can use exactly that same language back to them. And I think that can make a huge difference. The little picture I've got on the slide here is showing a guy with two cutout avatars. Now, an avatar or a persona is where you take all the essence of your customer and try and boil it down into maybe a description. You might give them a name. You might think about what their pains and problems are, sort of why they might be seeking a service like yours. You might also be looking to determine what influences them to buy at different stages. What are they interested in when they're just in need of a product, through to when they actually want to buy? What do they need to know? How important are different factors for them? So I think if you get reviews, I think about it. If you get reviews, that can help you understand your customers better and help develop these personas. Now, I'm not going to talk about personas, but it might be something good to touch on later and really go through that process of how you might develop a persona. So helps target SEO. Again, using the language they might use in search engines when they're searching on SEO, you can make sure those words are in there. And yeah, I think it just feels more comfortable, because when you're looking at a website and you can see people in the pictures and you can read the language and it reflects you, it feels like you or part of your tribe or the people you like being with, it's going to make it easier to get in touch with them, or more likely to get in touch with that company. Bring your customers closer. So I found this personally, but I have read an article on this, and I can't find it now, but just through anecdotally and through a little bit of, I won't call it science, but through other readings, I've found that if you get someone to review your service or your product, and you can do that with an image of them or a video, that positive review of them talking to you in video is more likely to reinforce the opinion that they hold about your company. So if they like you, they're more likely to give you a review. If they give you a review, it's going to reinforce their opinion of your company anyway. And that can be a good way to encourage people to talk about your business. Because if nothing else, if you have a fun, interesting testimonial, video, or even just a bit of text, someone may, depending on how you're using that testimonial, they may go, oh yeah, I said that. They've got that on my website. I know. I noticed the other day on Basecamp, which is a bit of software we use, I scrolled all the way to the bottom because I was using, they've got actually quite a nice testimonial page where you go to their clients page, and a lot of testimonials that they've got from clients, there's hundreds on there, are listed on that page, and I'm at the very bottom. So to me, it brings a smile to my face, like a smile to my face that I've actually been seen on there. But essentially, yeah, it reinforces your view on a company. So actually getting people to leave a testimonial, particularly if they've got their image associated with it, will reinforce their opinion and make them more likely to refer others. Again, it depends how far you go with that review. I will often, depending on how it works out, if someone reviews us or gives us a really, really good feedback at the end of a project, then they'll get a nice treat for doing so. I think Gray's box there. And that in itself, they've done the review, well, that's fine. But actually getting the Gray's box, that sticks in their mind, and that's something that may bring you to mind for other people. So maybe it's not the review, but it could be the way you handle it afterwards and thank them. Okay, so how to collect reviews. So I'm just going to run through a few different examples of how we collect reviews. In fact, before I do so, let me pull up the link to Greg Jeffries, the SEO affiliate. I'll pop that in the notes for everyone there. Okay, so this is how we collect reviews. And generally speaking, I would say do so after a positive engagement. Do so when you want to get the right customers to give you a review. What you don't want is to just be seeking constant reviews after every transaction. I think that might lead you to annoy people at the very least, and they'll start ignoring your feedback and reviews. So certainly asking after the right time period and not asking too frequently, but also trying to ask after a positive engagement. So choose that engagement wisely, because if it's negative, you're going to get negative feedback, which is fine. But if you're asking them to go onto a public review site and they've just had a crap experience, then you know what review you're going to get. So the first example from us is a project follow-up message. So this is loosely based on a template that we use. Once we finished a web development project or a small ad hoc project, then we might follow up with some website like this. What I try and do in this particular message is give them an idea of what we want it for, why we'd like it, what would be useful. I try and make it feel like the person's doing us a favor. I mean, they are doing us a favor, but I'm trying to be trying to show that, because people are inclined to want to help if they're giving you a favor. I mean, in some cases, I actually ask, would you'd make my day if you did me this favor and filled out a review for us. It can actually compel people to leave a review more often than if they weren't going to do that. In fact, Lou has written a piece on that on our blog. I don't know if I'll be able to find it while we speak, but it's certainly it's something to do with a US president. I'll see if I can find it at some point and put it on our newsletter. But what we've got here is just a list of questions, what the need was. So really that's understanding the pain points. That's going to help with developing the avatar. Has it achieved it? Have we done our job? Have they got any ideas for the future? That opens up the conversation for us to talk about other projects and ideas. Any snags or niggles? Because I want to address those first. And I want to address those before we get to the recommendation, because I want to almost get that out of their head before they think about that. And then this line, which I quite like, and I like it because what it does is, if you were to copy and paste the answer, it gives you something you can almost directly use as a testimonial. And that is, if you were to recommend Rather Inventive to a friend or colleague, how would you describe us? So what we then what we get is the customer's language written down, describing how we worked with them for their particular situation. And that seems to work quite well. And I'll come back to that actually as part of Say Hola, because that's one of the sentences we use. This is a bit of feedback gathering from Riverford. So I think this came on our 5th box from Riverford. This was just a current example I had coming through. And what I liked about it is it didn't come straight away. So what they didn't want is my very first opinion of it, which could have been positive, could have been negative. What they wanted is my sustained opinion. So this came after 5 boxes. I'd been willing to purchase from them for 5 boxes. So I am a customer that they want, that is worth having. I'm not just buying 1 box and going, I don't want that. I'm someone who wants to be a repeated buyer. And so therefore, if you want longer term customers, then arguably I'd say you want to get testimonials from longer term customers. Maybe not wait too long. This was 5 boxes, so that's about 5-6 weeks, something like that. They're using Trustpilot in this instance, and they just want to leave a review, which I did. And the nice thing is they responded back to that review. So I knew that I'd provided some feedback, and that feedback was valued. I didn't get a free gift. That would have been nice, especially from Riverford, but hey, you can't win everything. So this is, if you might see a lot of this actually from support companies, where they'll just add a rate us at the bottom of their email. I wouldn't have this on every customer email going out, but we've got a support account. So everything from there, where arguably I'd say customers need help and we can help them. So people would email into support, and then we're able to respond back and help them and hopefully get their issue resolved, whether it be hosting or website update or something like that. But at the bottom of each one of those, we do have our Say Hola link. So just like with Trustpilot, we can ask, have we done a good job? Let us know on the link below. And we've had a few. We don't get in fact, most of the reviews I get are when they are solicited after a particular action, like our workshops or a project. But this does drip them through, and I've had a few like this, and it's nice. It's really good just as an extra way of capturing a few other people who might be out the scope of your projects, workshops, or anything else where you generally would get reviews. So this is quite a nice way of doing it. You can obviously get reviews directly on your Google My Business page. So if you have set up a Google My Business page, then you would be able to leave a review down the bottom of it, depending on how you link people there. I've already put a review on here because we've worked with Communion. So I would edit my review. But if I had a review, if I hadn't put a review on there, it would say add review down the bottom. Even better than that, though, once you've got this set up, you can actually get a direct link directly to the review box. So in this case, I'm using us as an example. And if you follow the link that is shown in the notes there, then that will allow, it's basically a description of how to generate a unique link straight to this page. So if you were to link to people from your website or from an email, you can take them straight to this Google review page, so they don't have to find the button. They can just click on the 5-star and rate their experience. And that's nice and simple. So if you go to support.google and then their answer 7035772, you'll find that there. Graze has popped up again. I think however, whatever your review process is in terms of how you ask or what what process you have, what data you want to collect. And I would argue that if you're just collecting feedback, don't ask for too much, because people will be fatigued and they won't want to answer all your questions. So you'll be cutting down the types of people who are happy to ask your questions. If you have lots of detail you want to collect from people, I would send out a short survey afterward, before, which just asked a few questions, something like, how would you recommend us to other people? What can we do to improve our service? The people who respond to that, you might want to follow up with a thank you, maybe a phone call, and then follow up questions from there, rather than these 10-minute surveys where they ask you lots of questions under the sun, so they can look at their metrics every month and find out how well they're doing. I don't think that's a nice customer experience. Anyway, getting onto this particular page, I think whatever process you go through, say thank you in some way. If you can spend a bit of money on it, maybe find a little gift. But whatever you do, don't make it a bribe. I would probably not bring up the idea of the gift before you ask for a review, but you can certainly do that if you want, as long as it's not a bribe, really. Certainly keep it under 20 quid. Maybe you can get coffee vouchers from Starbucks or Graze or anything that's easy to send electronically. Just look out for little fun ways to thank people. And I did say we'd talk about structured data. Don't be scared, because a lot of people don't know what it is. Normally in my workshops, I say, put your hands up if you know what structured data is, and we get nothing. I won't ask that here because I can't see your hands. Some of you may know about this as well, because I've talked to a lot of clients about structured data, and we've started implementing it on their sites. But I think it's nice for you to see how this works. For those who don't know what it is, structured data is a standard format to identify different types of content. And it is recommended by Google and Bing. In fact, I think they were part of the development of structured data, or the website schema.org. So here's an example of how it works. So if you had a recipe site and one of the recipes on there was apple pie, you can add some additional markup, schema, information that you can use to tell Google or anyone else looking at this content that it's a recipe, the exact name of this recipe, who is the author of this recipe, and then other details like the ingredients, the method, and so on, as well as the average rating. So if you do have ratings available on your site, then you can apply them in this schema data and apply them to your site. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be relevant for you guys as an audience, but it's a good example to show that if you want to get in one of these content boxes that appear often at the top above the search results for specific things, it does tend to be for specific types of objects like recipes, then you'd want to make sure you've got your structured data in place. So Anita, you had a question here. What format is best when obtaining reviews? Is it easiest for client best? But do you recommend click the box online or fill in a form? Okay, so basically you're saying what's the easiest way to collect reviews, or the best format for collecting reviews, particularly from the client's point of view? Is it going to be online or fill in the form? It's a good question. I would say try and do both, because you won't capture everyone, and B, some people prefer online stuff. Like I prefer doing things online. Some people prefer doing things when they're in the moment. So, for example, I don't know if you were on when I was showing this, Anita, but this is our workshop notes form. Now, forget everything at the top. We're looking at this bit at the bottom. It's not truly feedback as such, but it is asking a question that can incite for that. I think to get all of this information, it's a lot easier for me to ask for it in the workshop. As much as I would like people to fill it in digitally when they're offline and they go home, it just doesn't happen so much. It's just not always going to happen. However, so what I do is I get people to fill out feedback forms when they're there, but I'll also follow up a day or two afterwards with further notes, and I will get a review of what they thought about the workshop at that point. Now, also what I do is I'll follow up within 30 days, and that I will get the follow-up might be on Skype or something like this, a video conference, in which case if they've had a service, I might be able to, if they haven't given me a review, I might be able to seek another review at that point. For me, trying to get the review as near as possible to the transaction is best. It's, as I said before, a positive transaction. If you can get a positive transaction and ask for a review soon afterwards, that's going to be better. If you leave it too long, people will either have forgotten the experience or won't be bothered. So it's best to try and do it as soon as possible. Online is often easiest for me, and it's most preferable from my point of view in terms of collecting data. But I think it depends. It really does depend on your audience. Maybe if you post an example, then we can talk about that while I continue on. So this is structured data and why it is useful. And this is just an example from Apple Pie. So here's an example from a client and why it might be useful from help in an SEO point of view. So this was a screenshot taken when we just had implemented this not long after the schema was put onto their website. But basically, in fact, let me flick to the schema so you can see it. So on this particular website, we put in this script, which is called JSON script, and it's a way of representing information where you can see you've almost got fields like name, and then you've got a value, which is their Selmac metalworking machinery. So what we could do is we could put this on the contact page of their website, and it's going to give us additional information like their contact details. It's going to tell Google this is a company, this is their name, this is what their logo is, and then also what other properties they've got around the internet that relate to them. Again, this helps Google tie up entities so it knows where all the information is. Plus, we've got this aggregate rating. Now, this was just manually input. So we've got the rating value and review count need to be manually changed in this case, and they come from Google My Business. Now, once this is put in, after a period of time, once Google goes back through and re-indexes a site, when the contact page comes up in search, this is what it's going to look like, and it's going to help highlight the listing with these review stars. As they get more reviews, they should go back and add them in. And that's something, there's a mechanic in the back of the WordPress website where they can do that. But this is just for the contact page. Obviously, if you've got products, or in this case, machine types, or in our case, we might have a workshop page, or we've got various services, we want to make sure those reviews are very specific to our specific pages. So if someone's searching for workshops or SEO workshop in Cirencester, and we have a page like that, a workshop page, then we want our ratings to show. So we can customize this value here just to be for the reviews that we've got for our workshops. But it's a bit of a pain to manage. I mean, it's really useful, but often you want something automated to put this data in for you. And I'll show you something that can do that later. But if you don't have this, and even if you don't have reviews, just putting in this first part up to aggregate rating can be really helpful in just telling Google who you are and where you are on the internet. Someone who explained a lot more about structured data than I and give you a background on it is a guy called Dwayne Forrester. Now, I interviewed him a little while ago, and he helped create the schema.org when he was at Microsoft. He's now working for a company called Yext, and they basically are quite a big organization that helps other big organizations manage all their properties online. So schema is one of those elements that they all help manage, but they'll make sure that everything is all their online profiles are correct, up to date, and and synchronized, really. So yeah, he knows a lot about that. It's a really good interview. I recommend you listen to that. You can find that on our website if you just go to our blog and search for Dwayne, or you can probably just search for Dwayne Forrester Something Inventive podcast in your podcast player, and it should come up. Definitely worth listening to. So I'm going to come back to what Heidi was asking about, which I've already spoken to Heidi about this a little while ago, and it's a bit of review software that we've developed, and it may well help both what I was talking about in terms of collecting reviews and maybe answering Anita's question, but also about structured data and a way of managing that process as well, because they're both relevant. So I will talk you through it. So this is a product that we've made called Sehola. It is free to everyone, although our customers or paying customers get a more advanced version where we can customize it for them and tweak it and link it to multiple profiles, but it is open to anyone, and I'll walk you through it. So essentially what we want to do, or the reason I came up with Sehola and created it, is because I wanted a simple way to collect testimonials online. I either wasn't happy with the other solutions that were out there, or they're expensive. So I didn't want to, it just wasn't something we could recommend for some of the level of our clients. So we came up with this very simple system. And I wanted it to ask just one simple question, or get two bits of information really, which is A, were you happy? So that's what the thumbs up mean. Were you happy with this? And if you were, can you give us a testimonial? Now, if you were to ask people, are you happy? That's fine, they can answer that. But if you say, can you give us a testimonial? They may not know what you mean. It may give different results. So I wanted to reuse that question that we've used in our project, post-project survey quite a lot, which has always given the great testimonials broadly out of it. But also, if they put no, then I wanted to change the question. I wanted to find out what we could do better, particularly for us, but any company who's using this. So the question alters depending on whether they put yes or no, because we want to seek different information. If it's yes, we want to say, how would you tell other people? If it's no, how would you tell us? What information can we do to make it better for next time? And so let's say they tick yes, it goes, thank you. Now, if you were to recommend rather inventive marketing to a friend, what should you say about them? And then this gives us our testimonial. And then if they want to be associated with the feedback, they can pop their name and email in there and then submit. Very simple process. It's basically 1.5 questions. Once that's done, it's going to lead them onto the next page. On the next page, again, thanks them for their feedback. That feedback has been submitted. They don't have to continue anymore, and they can close everything down. From your point of view as a customer, you get that notification straight away as an email. So you get that feedback, and if they've named it, it's going to put their name against it. So that's great. So you can thank them personally at that point. You can get back in touch if they've left their email. After this point, so we can ask another question. Would you go a few steps further and review Rather Inventive on one of the following websites? Now we've got 2 listed here. The interface actually changed a little bit since I took these screen grabs. We've got a slightly better question, which hopefully gets a bit more feedback. Thank you to Aaron Kernahan for that from Eclipse. But basically at this stage, what we want to do is say, well, that's great. Now, are you able to then review that reviewers publicly and take the review? Ben and his team are so helpful. I made that up, by the way. That's not a real review. And then put that onto a different platform like Google My Business. If they can do that, that's brilliant. So not only we didn't know the feedback, but it goes publicly. Can they put it on as a tweet? We've also got links into Facebook, Hows, and iTunes if you've got a podcast. So And there's other ones we'll be adding, like LinkedIn, and I want to add a YouTube one at some point. So there's lots of different things there, because I want people to go a step further. If they're already feeling well disposed to us, can we take a little bit of an advantage and ask them another question? We've got some other ideas, and I'll be interested in your feedback in this, in terms of building in some thank you gift, like a Graze voucher or a coffee, or a discount voucher if you're a shop, and that can come up at the end so they can print it out and take it with them, or show it to people in store. I don't know yet. As an interesting way of just saying thank you at the end. But essentially, the goal has been achieved. We've created something which is, I'll go back to that slide, easy to link to. It's just a URL. You can just link people straight to the Ask page. You don't have to have any special codes in there if you don't want to. They can answer basically 1.5 questions. And if they have enough time, then they're likely to do this. Now, the conversion rate through to these extra services isn't terribly high, but it's better than not having them at all. This is just an example that if you were to click on Twitter, it actually gives you some instructions on how to achieve that, which I found useful, because some people may not know how to do it. And in fact, tweeting is probably the easiest way, because you just click on the link. It's taken your testimonial, created the tweet for you. You just need to sign in and press tweet. So Anita, I don't know if that helps answer your question in terms of what's the best. But I would definitely think a short online form is more useful generally. But if you're in person with them, like I was this morning in our workshop, I think actually a form is probably the best, unless you're willing to hand around a couple of iPads. But you don't want to make people wait. At the end of it, once you filled out the feedback over a bit of time, you'll get a scorecard rating, and the percentage there is based on the number of thumbs up and thumbs down ratings that you get. Thumbs up will always be counted. Thumbs up and thumbs down will always be counted in that rating. However, the feedback that is shown is only shown if it's approved. So that one from Sue there was only shown because it was a helpful rating. If it's something where I didn't want to approve it for some reason, maybe the spelling was wrong, or they got something wrong in it, or it was something I don't want people to see, maybe a rant, something from a competitor, you can actually not show that. But I thought actually having a score or rating, I think I need that to be accurate, and I don't want people to abuse that by just hiding all the bad stuff. Now, I did say we'll come on to schema. What's nice about it is, again, over time, it builds up the schema for you. So we've pre-put in all this information, and so if you scroll to the end of your scorecard and actually view all, then you'll see the schema automatically generated for you. So it's got all your details in there, everything we need, including the same as, because that links to Twitter, Google, Facebook, all the other profiles we've put in, plus your aggregate rating, which it does know about. So in this case, you can see we've had 38 reviews with a review average rating of 5. Now, the rating is either 1 because it's negative or 5 because it's positive. Luckily, we've had no negative reviews, so it hasn't brought that average rating down. But if we did, it's going to bring that average rating down. And then we can just copy and paste that and put it straight onto our site. I'm not sure. Let me have a look at the next page. No. So I didn't put an example of it on there, but we're actually generating a bit of code for WordPress sites where it would automatically pull that information in, this particular schema information, onto the site along with the reviews, so you don't have to do anything. Every time you get a new Say Hello review, it just automatically updates it on there. That particular one is that short code and plugin is only available to customers or paying users, but there's nothing to stop you just copying and pasting this particular information here. Glad I answered your questions, Heidi and Anita. So Anita, you say, thanks for using a form. We email to them at the moment, but it's not suitable for all projects, so probably needs a tweak. I don't know if Say Hello would be useful for you, Anita. It's certainly a very simple process. Something you can do is add an optional reference to your link. So in an example of my workshops, I actually put a reference workshop at the end, which means down the line, I can just put the plugin on my website and just say, on this particular page, I just want it to show workshop testimonials, and it'll actually filter everything based on that, which means it's going to be more relevant for the people looking at that page, and it's also then useful for Google. Yeah, so if anyone wants a free Say Hello account, just get in touch. Just email me, hello@ratherinventive.com, and I'll sort that out for you. It's completely free. It's something we want to build up over time, and I believe it really is a very easy way to collect feedback compared to some of the other systems I've seen. And yeah, I want people to use it because I want to know, get some real feedback on its use and development of it. Heidi, yes, you just put Say Hola finally onto your email signature. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works for you. We've certainly found that once you embrace it, it becomes a very useful way. And you know what? If nothing else, it becomes a really good process for capturing feedback, because I think a lot of people might capture feedback from bits of paper, or they might do a Survey Monkey form or a Google spreadsheet form. There's lots of different ways you can collect that information, but what do you do with it? And so the whole point of Say Hola is it will automatically do something with that data. At very least, you get to see it on your rating scorecard. So that's something you can send people. That's something you can actually get as a widget. Again, I didn't have a screenshot of it on here, but there's a little iframe widget that you can copy and paste, put on your site, and it's going to show what your scorecard rating is, or the last 3 testimonials. And so your testimonials start having this nice cyclical process that you can start using them for something, which so many people don't. They'll collect all this information, and it just sits internally in their companies. Do we have any other questions? We're coming up to about 9 minutes before we finish, but if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them. I'm just trying to think if there's any other ideas on reviews and feedback. Maybe think back to the questions previously that I asked. I'm quite interested to know at what point you guys will give feedback to other customers. Sorry, not other customers, other companies. Maybe you've been on holiday, or you've bought something from Amazon, or anything like that, really, where they're asking for feedback. What encourages you to give feedback? I think is a really useful question for everyone to know. Certainly for me, I'll answer the question first. For me, it's going to be if there is, if I've had a truly positive experience, I'm not going to want any further reward. So I really don't. If I've liked your product or service and I've had fun, or I felt valued, I'm more than happy to do that. So for something like Basecamp, the software we use, I really like it, and I'm more than happy to, when they have asked, give them the feedback. If it's a particularly nice meal, I'm more than happy to do that. And actually, if because I want them to keep going, I want them to keep doing the same thing. So if they're doing something right, tell people. It's so important. And if they're not doing something right, or something can be improved, you need to tell people. Heidi, you said being prompted when I've returned from holiday, or you've had a product is essential, or you forget. So really for you, it's got to be straight away. It's got to happen straight away. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. Do you require any incentive? I mean, if someone offers me a coffee to do something, then that could sway me. I often see a lot of people who are giving away maybe £100 gift voucher, or an iPad, or an Apple Watch in return to in return for filling out a survey. But often that's a competition. So the problem with the competition is I don't know what I'm going to get out of that. I'm just maybe in a group of people who are filling out this form, and I don't know what you're going to do with the data. I don't know how useful it is. Am I going to get a personal response back? Yeah, sure, I might win something, but the chance of that happening, it's like signing up to an email and potentially winning something. It might happen, but I would rather either want an excellent service. The service is so good that I feel compelled I must say thank you for it, or so bad that I must point out where I think they could do better, or give me some value directly. Anita, you sold me. Sign me up to Say Hola. Okay, right. I'll talk to you outside of the IMC, and we'll get you on board. And Heidi, you said, no, I see that as a bribe. If I'm happy and I had exceptional service, that's enough for me. Exactly. I think if you can build in that your service is so good that people would be more than happy to give you a testimonial, that's the best way forward. And so it's almost save your money and put it into your energy, enthusiasm, or whatever service you're providing. Put it into that rather than trying to bribe them afterwards. Although, if people want to bribe me with something, that's fine. I'm open to that. Okay, so we're rounding off. what would you like the next topic to be? I've got SEO, search optimization, image editing, and I don't know how much we're going to cover with that because there's so many different things. We could even look into how you might find images online and just sort of broadly talk about images and how they're used online. Google Analytics or something else. So while you mull on that, I'll just read out a comment from Heidi. Heidi, do you mind if I tell them the story of the Graze boxes from your end? Go ahead. Okay, so basically, I'm sorry, Heidi, I can't remember exactly why I gave you a Graze box, but I'm sure you were saying something nice. But basically, I sent a Graze box to Heidi, I think it was the end of a project, to say thank you. And I didn't hear anything back. And usually I hear a thank you from people, oh, that was yummy, or what a surprise, but I didn't hear anything. So I followed up. And Heidi went, no, I've not had a Graze box. What happened? And apparently her husband had arrived at home before. I saw this Graze box come through. I don't think it mentioned Heidi's name. Just said thanks very much for the review, the referral. In fact, it was. Thanks very much. And he ate the whole box. Enjoyed it very much. I spoke to Heidi about this and said, right, we'll get another one sent out. I sent another one out, and he did exactly the same thing. He found the Graze box and chomped on. I said, that's it. You're not getting any more. If your husband's going to eat them all. So they are, he was a little monkey. So they are very, very nice. The thing I love about them is that they are fun. There's something I wouldn't really buy, but if I received one, I'd love it. And they fit through the post. They're really cheap. I think about £3.75. So they're not expensive, but they're quite fun. I think they bring more fun than the value that they cost. And you've got lots of different options for if people are gluten-free or into spicy or not, or that sort of thing. So they're definitely worthwhile. Okay, let's see if I've got a poll here, and I'll pop this out. I should have put it out earlier. Let's see if I can add it. Topic for next month. Here we go. Right, so I want you to vote on the poll. And we've got SEO, image editing, Google Analytics, or something else. I should have some dramatic music while people are doing this. Maybe I'll just drum roll. What would you like to see? Or something else. You can certainly name another topic, and if they align, we can do that. Oh, SEO and image finding and editing. Have we got one person to break the deadlock? Otherwise, I'm going to have to choose. SEO. Oh, okay. So Anita, as you put in SEO there, I think we can cover that. Unless before the end of the show, we get another one in SEO. Okay, SEO it is. Brilliant. Okay, that's great. So I did give an SEO workshop this morning, so we're already primed on that. I've got some great topics to talk about that. So that's ideal. Brilliant. So if you're listening and you're not a member, you came in as a freebie first one, then you can join our club for just £250 for the whole 12 months. And at the very least, you're going to get one of these club webinars every single month. If you're already a customer, or you've been invited on, or you're part of one of our sort of one of the networks we're part of, then you don't need to join. But if you're just coming on for the one show, then you can just join. You can buy it directly online via our Inventive People site. We're also hoping to put more into the club over time. You can certainly get access to all the old webinars. If you haven't put them anywhere yet, but certainly if you're signed up, you get access to all of them. And I'm going to have a secret place to put them all. So if you join at any point in the year, you can go back and listen to any of the topics we cover. Heidi, the next date. So we work on a having our IMC on the 4th Tuesday of every month. So that is going to work out to be the 25th of June coming up. It's always at 1 o'clock. I will just ask, is that date okay for everyone? Is that not that date specifically, but is the 4th Tuesday of every month at 1 o'clock good, or would it be preferable to move to a different date? You don't have to answer now, but it would be interesting to know what people's thoughts are. I just picked that arbitrarily at the start. It just felt right. But, maybe there's a different date that works better for people that we can move to at some point. But that's it. We'll end. We're just before the hour. So I want to thank you very much for all your time. Do let other people know about the workshop. And if you do, I'm more than happy to, and they sign up, I'm more than happy to give you an hour of my time over Skype or a webinar like this, just for you on your company. But thanks very much, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed the rest of what's left of the week and the month, and I'll catch you next one. Take care.